25 years, the Civilization series has been giving gamers the chance to guide a group of people from the dawn of agriculture into the space age. It's a beloved gaming institution, and even in today's competitive, saturated market, there's nothing quite like it. And it all started with this guy. And in gaming's early days, there was probably no one else with the skills and experience to create something like the first Civilization. Meier started out making flight simulators, but he soon turned to his childhood love of history and strategy games to make Pirates and Railroad Tycoon. Both were hits, but it was Civilization which turned Sid Meier into a true household name, second only to Nintendo's Shigeru Miyamoto amongst gaming's founding fathers. Released in September 1991, it quickly became clear that Meier and his team had made something truly original. While other games had paved its way, Civilization was unparalleled in its ambition. Every game began in the same way, with a band of settlers wandering an unexplored world to found their first city. From there, the player expands their empire, discovering new technologies, building world wonders, and going to war against their rivals. Victory came by sending the first spaceship to Alpha Centauri, or conquering the world by force. Most early games simulated some form of human experience, but simulating all of humanity's experience had never been done in any medium. It required completely rethinking how players experience virtual time and space, giving rise to two pioneering game mechanics. In Civ, geography is destiny, because oceans, rivers, mountains, deserts, and resources dictate every strategy. But there's a problem with the actual Earth. It's unbalanced and predictable. Randomized, procedurally generated maps were already common in RPGs, but Civ had the first procedural Earth, a mechanic which encouraged exploration and new strategies for every game. Meier also needed something to structure the game's epic timescale and technological progression, which led to gaming's first tech tree. It laid out all of human knowledge in a linear way, giving players control over their long-term strategies. However, Civ was above all a groundbreakingly deep game, because these innovations were just part of many delicately balanced, interconnected gameplay systems. The sequels have been updating and refining Meier's basic formula ever since. Their combined success has made Civilization one of the most beloved franchises in history. It sold more than 35 million units, won countless awards including gaming's first Grammy, and today, more than 6 years after its release, Civilization 5 is consistently amongst the top 5 most played games on Steam. And that's even more incredible when you look at its competition. Civilization is clearly an anomaly. So what's going on here? Well, Civ has a dirty little secret. It's more addictive than Class A narcotics. While most single-player games are left to collect dust after completion, people keep coming back to Civ for another hit.
By the time I got to the industrial age, I was a full-blown junkie. There were times when I'd play the game 2-3 days straight, wouldn't get up to eat, wouldn't get up to go to the bathroom.
You go to the bathroom for 3 days?
I said I didn't get up.
Meier stresses the suspension of disbelief, how he wants players to be in the game instead of simply playing it, which is why Civilization has always been about total intoxicating immersion.
What I'm trying to do is get the game to take place in your imagination, not on the screen. Sometimes if what happens on the screen is too realistic, it almost makes you have that vision of what's going on instead of what you would imagine yourself.
This approach can be boiled down into Meier's famous quote, "The game is a series of interesting choices." And every game of Civ is dedicated to giving the player exactly that. There is no single strategy to win, and no two games are ever alike, because every time you sit down to play, a new world is born. New geographies and new opponents mean that you have to try something different every time, and the choices are so well balanced that you actually want to. It's left many gamers lost in a world of their own creation, each turn like another cliffhanger in a series in which they are the writer, the director, and the star. Many games resort to hollow tricks to increase replay value, like multiple playthroughs, collectibles, or millions of procedurally generated environments with the same shallow grinding tasks. Civilization is quality over quantity, giving you those interesting choices by stripping out as many of the uninteresting ones as they possibly can. Leonard Nimoy said it best.
A designer knows he has achieved perfection, not when there is nothing left to add, but when there is nothing left to take away.
And even though Civ games seem to have no real story, these interesting choices are used as a classic storytelling technique. Players are constantly revealing their own narratives and character through their choices. You might build a peaceful society of enlightened scientists, or simply crush your enemies. It's what the game journalists call an emergent narrative, where the author of a game story isn't a designer but the players themselves. History is the richest source of storytelling material that we have, which makes the Civilization series gaming's equivalent of Lego, giving players historical building blocks so they can recombine them in interesting ways. It reconstituted history for a new medium, where play drives the story and code gives logic to the information instead of words. We have this preconceived notion that the only proper way to learn about the past is through a dusty textbook or a dry lecture, without realizing that the foundation of all learning is play. Every character, building, or unit in the game is lifted directly from the past, and before Wikipedia, there was the Civilopedia to give you their background. People can argue about how educational a game can truly be, but I doubt I'm alone in having learnt more about our past from Civilization than any of my teachers. From Homer to George R.R. Martin, there's a grand tradition of blurring the boundaries between story and history in the written word. In gaming, Civilization does it best. In a way, it's the ultimate simulation, helping us to understand what actually happened by playing out what might have been. It's been said that history doesn't repeat itself, but it does rhyme. We love the Civilization series because it rhymes with our own reality. It can help us understand the forces that shape the world around us, because ultimately the game is an imperfect but illuminating reflection of our own history, with all of its darkness and its hope.